Okay, this meeting is now being live streamed. Welcome everybody to this licensing hearing. The first order of business is to appoint a chair. Could I have a proposer for a chair, please?
I propose Mike Warren for chair.
Could I have a seconder?
I second Mike Warren for chair.
Okay, thank you very much. In that case, Councillor Mike Warren is duly appointed as chair of this subcommittee hearing. Councillor Warren, over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Can I just introduce my colleagues on the subcommittee? Jake, could I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Jake Roberts. I'm the councillor for Duston West and St Crispin.
And Keith?
And I'm Councillor Keith Horn of Delamere, Councillor for Bellingham Rectory Farm. Thank you.
And can I ask, do you have any declarations of interest?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Just as a matter of housekeeping, some of the participants on this meeting are actually in council offices, and therefore we will need to adjourn if the fire alarm should go off. Hopefully it won't. Therefore, we'll need to adjourn the hearing, and hopefully that will not happen. Can I ask that all mobile phones are switched to silent? And can I also ask that all screens are switched to mute? And if you wish to ask a question, to raise a hand, which is then situated in the participants at the bottom of your screen. And I will see that, and I will call you to speak. Thank you. Can I ask all present on the screen to introduce themselves? And what I'll do is I'll go along the screen as I see them to ask you to introduce yourselves. So the committee clerk, which is Richard, would you introduce yourself, please?
Richard Woods, Democratic Services Officer, West Northamptonshire Council.
Thank you. Martin. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Martin O'Connell, Senior Licensing Officer from West Northampton Council.
Thank you. James.
Good morning. My name is James Chadwick. I'm Senior Litigation and Licensing Solicitor for West Northampton Council, and I'm the legal advisor to this subcommittee.
Thank you. Iona, is it? Could you introduce yourself, please? You're on mute.
Leona, female stewardess at Escape Venue.
Thank you very much. Danny?
Dan Kituna, the owner and the manager at Escape Venue in Northampton.
Thank you very much. Mr. Payne?
Yes, good morning, sir. John Payne, I'm the legal representative for the licence holder.
Thank you very much indeed. Sandy Tracy?
Good morning, Chair. Sandy Tracy, Northampton Police Licensing.
Thank you. Next one, I'm going to have difficulty in pronouncing this. I apologise. Mr. Udo, is it?
Udo Akawangoda.
Okay, sorry, I apologise for that.
It's fine, it's fine. I'm used to
okay.
This unique name. I'm the head doorman in Escape.
Okay, thank you very much. Next one, Mr. Adudu, Edward.
Udo. Okay.
Okay. Then I've just got initials for the next one, which is WM.
Yes, good morning. My name is Wallace. I tried to change it on there, but I don't know how it's not changed yet. Yeah, so I'm one of the staff at Escape. I'm one of the operations officers, managers there.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. And lastly, I've got, all I've got, I'm afraid, is Zoom user. I've got no title there.
Ajubi.
Sorry?
Ajubi.
Okay, and you are?
I'm a customer.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you everybody for that. Have any of the licensing papers, have you all received a copy of the agenda to today's hearing?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Have all the parties received a copy of the agenda and to the hearing today? And also, have you seen a copy of the procedure and that the subcommittee will be following today? And are there any questions or issues that anybody wishes to raise regarding the procedure?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, in a moment, I'll ask the licensing officer to outline their report, and then the applicant will make their statement, and all parties and the subcommittee will then have the chance to ask questions. Both sides will then have the opportunity to sum up their cases. Are there any preliminary issues anybody wishes to raise at this time? No? Okay. Can I ask the licensing officer to outline the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to consider a request from Northamptonshire Police for a review of the premises licence for Escape, a nightclub at 5 Horseshoe Street, Northampton. The review was sent to us from Northamptonshire Police on the 13th of July 2021 and submitted in accordance with the licensing objective of the prevention of crime and disorder. When a request for a review of premises licence or club premises certificate is received, we must display a notice at or near the premises and on the council's website. And this gives the responsible authorities and other interested parties a 28-day period for the opportunity to make representations in relation to a review application. It is the responsibility of the applicant, i.e. Northamptonshire Police in this case, to serve a copy of the review application onto the licence holder and the responsible authorities. The local authority displayed the obligatory notice on the 14th of July 2021. During the 28-day period, there have been further representations from the public, one from a housing manager from White and Brown's Property Management Company on behalf of residents of In Toto House, which is a building next door to Escape on Horseshoe Street. This was on the grounds of public nuisance. There have also been some representations from customers and staff from the premises itself, expressing their positive views of the safety and security at the premises. Attendance. The local authority is required to request confirmation of attendance from all interested parties. The following have to date confirmed, and they are here today as introduced to you. I understand also there should be Sergeant Sally O'Neill from Northamptonshire Police here as well. I didn't hear her being introduced. Is that correct? Anyway, we'll move on to the premises licence itself. The licence number is PL0436. The current licence holder is Mr. Dan Kituno, who's here today, and he's also the DPS at that premises. The premises are licensed for the following activities: the performance of live music indoors, the playing of recorded music indoors, the performance of dance, late night refreshment, and the sale of alcohol by retail, both on and off the premises. There are various hours listed there in the report, going as late as 4 AM in the morning on a Friday and Saturday. The opening hours are until 4:30 on a Friday and Saturday, until 3:30 on a Monday to Thursday. Mr. Dan Kituno has been the licence holder at Escape since December 2017 and has also been the DPS since that time. At the end of the consultation period, the licence authority must hold the hearing and must take steps as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. The steps the subcommittee can take are to modify the conditions of the licence, to exclude a licensable activity from the licence, to remove the designated premises supervisor, to suspend the licence for a period of not exceeding 3 months, to revoke the licence, or to take no action. For these purposes, a condition of the licence is those purposes, a condition of the licence is modified if any of them are altered or omitted, or a new condition is added. In making their decision, the policies must be considered are the Northampton Borough Council Statement of Licensing Policy and Section 8182 guidance in relation to the Licensing Act 2003. Sections 11 and 13 give particular guidance for the determination of this application, and each application must be considered on its own merits. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, do you have any questions of the licensing officer? Jake?
I don't have any questions at this time, no. That outline was what I would say is succinct and what I'd expect.
Thank you very much indeed. Keith?
Same here, Chair.
Okay, we'll move on. We're now going to hear presentations from each of the parties. All parties will have the opportunity to make their presentation, and then at the end of each presentation, you will get the opportunity to ask questions. Can I please ask the representative, I believe, Mr. Payne, you will present Mr. Ketu's statement.
Well, sir, actually, we're not the applicant in this matter. It's the police. That's
Sorry, I do apologise.
That's perfectly all right.
Sorry, objections to the representations. Can we ask the licensing officer? Sorry, I do apologise.
Sandy Tracy, do you want me to?
Yes, it is. Yes, I apologise. Sorry, Sandy. Yes.
It's fine. Yes. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's fine. Right. Okay. I'm just going to go through what I've submitted when I submitted the review. But basically, this review is based on an incident of a fray that occurred both inside and outside the escape venue, Horseshoe Street, Northampton, whereby a young male received serious stabbing injuries, and as a result of numerous police requests to make with them the premises licence holder and DPS, Mr. Danny Catano, he's failed to do so. Obviously, this is it from what the information I've been given and the information that we've received and the intelligence that we've collated as a result of the investigation that was carried out. So in the early hours of Sunday, the 13th of June, 2021, Northamptonshire police response officers attended an incident that had occurred in close proximity to the escape venue. An anonymous male had died 999, requesting police at 3:31 hours, and he stated that a stabbing had occurred in the car park in St. Peter's Way, Northampton, adjacent to the club. He stated that the injured party was dying. Officers made their way to the scene, and the first officers arrived at 3:35 and saw between 70 and 100 young people in the car park. The majority of the group were young males of African Caribbean descent. Police inquiries revealed that the group had been attending a birthday party inside the escape venue, which was not pre-booked. There had been a violent altercation within the club whereby a knife was produced by one of the persons involved. This altercation had spilled out as the club was closing into the car park, and it was in the car park where a male was then stabbed 3 times, receiving serious injuries for which he was hospitalised. Officers at the scene spoke to the manager of the bar, Mr. Dan Catano, to establish what happened, as he was present. He confirmed who he was and provided his details. He was told that police would need the CCTV from inside the club to establish what happened inside prior to the altercations that occurred outside. Mr. Catano stated that he had hosted a birthday party for a group of 100 people. It was established that members of the group involved in the altercation were gang nominals known to Northamptonshire Police. On Monday, the 14th of June, 2021, I wrote an email to Mr. Catano, which is my exhibit SAT1, requesting the following information. I'd like to have him to have sent me the details of the event, as he was premises that night, what happened between the 12th and 13th of June. I wanted to know the number of people he had inside his premises, copies of his risk assessments, details of any promoters he may have used, details of the door staff he employed that evening, and wanted their names, their SIA numbers, their dates of birth, and the hours of which they worked, copies of his incident logs, and the CCTV footage from 2 o'clock to 3:45, covering all aspects of his premises. On that same day, I made a phone call to his mobile phone and left a voicemail message for him to contact me urgently. I explained it was regarding the stabbing incident outside his club and the altercation inside. I explained that I wanted to discuss with him a partnership approach in working with him in the first instance to ensure that this didn't happen again. Mr. Catano didn't respond to either my email or my phone message. On Thursday, the 17th of June, I left another message on his voicemail stating that I was concerned that I'd not heard back from him and that I presumed that this was because he was unwilling to liaise with me and work in a partnership approach to deal with the incidents that had occurred both inside and outside his venue. On Monday, the 21st of June, I left another telephone message for Mr. Catano to get in touch as a matter of urgency. On Thursday, the 24th of June, I called him again, left another voicemail message. And on Monday, the 28th of June, I wrote another email outlining the fact that I wanted him to get in touch regarding the incident that had occurred on the 12th and 13th of June, the fact that I'd emailed him and called him a number of times, the fact that I was trying to establish facts around the incident and to implement procedures to ensure an incident of this type didn't reoccur in a partnership approach. I was disappointed that I had not been in touch as expected, and that as a result of what he'd done, I was left with no choice other than to implement review proceedings against the premises. And that if I didn't hear from him by midday on Wednesday, the 30th of June, I would assume that he didn't want to engage with me and work in a partnership approach with Northamptonshire Police, and review papers would be submitted in due course to Northampton Borough Council. At the time that I submitted this review, I had not heard from Mr. Catano. He'd not made any contact either directly or indirectly with Northamptonshire Police licensing team. He'd not left a message on my mobile phone or via any other means. I provided my contact details to Mr. Catano during every correspondence that I made. I also verified, and there's a statement from Louise Faulkner from Northampton Council, that she had actually been liaising with Mr. Catano on that phone number and the email address with no problems at all. Northamptonshire Police has lost confidence in Mr. Catano as a DPS and licence holder based on his failure to communicate with our licensing department and work with us when requested. We've got concerns regarding his ability to run a late night venue such as the Escape venue and keep our public safe. The knife was used in an altercation within the premises and later outside, whereby a young man was stabbed 3 times. Mr. Catano is not engaged with either the officer in the case or with me at any point to offer an explanation, to offer his help or offer his support. Mr. Catano was present through the evening at the venue on an earlier visit by the authorities where they placed him there. And we know that he was present at the venue between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning of the 13th of June, and we've got a statement to this effect. Mr. Catano is not engaged with the police as requested, but what is requested as a responsible operator, therefore we seek revocation of his premises licence. Mr. Catano has had the opportunity to work with us in a partnership approach in dealing with what's happened and put measures in place to try and ensure this type of incident doesn't happen again. His failure to get in touch has left us with no option other than to seek a revocation of the premises licence for which he is legally responsible. There is a police sergeant that spoke to Mr. Catano on the night. I believe that she's waiting to get into the hearing. I don't know if it could be, if she could be allowed to enter the hearing, because it may be that the committee have some questions for her, because there are, it appears, 2 sides to every story. There's obviously our side to the story, and I think Mr. Catano's side to the story is sometimes confused. So she's here if there are any questions that need to be put to her in relation to what actually happened and what was said on the night. And that is, from our perspective, why we submitted the review. Separately to that, the Escape venue is not a problem premises for us in the past. The reason that we were left with no choice but to revoke this review is because of the lack of contact and the lack of partnership approach by Mr. Gaetano. He subsequently contacted me by the telephone between the last hearing and this hearing, and he's apologised for not being in touch with me. He's given me an explanation as to why he hasn't been in touch with me, and also he's made reference to the fact that the CCTV of the incident that night, well, of the club that night, whether it actually captured any instances, who knows, because it's been wiped, which I find extremely disappointing, because my colleague PC Sandy O'Neill spoke to Mr. Gaetano on the night and made it clear to him, as she's written in her statement, that the CCTV was required as to form as part of our investigation for a serious assault where somebody could have died, and that's been wiped. So I'm extremely disappointed, and I'm a bit perplexed, to be honest, as to why that would have been wiped and not saved for us. But at this stage, I'm happy to answer any questions that are put to me by Mr. Gaetano's legal representative.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions of Sandy at all? Jake?
I don't at time. From reading the police statements, that's in total alignment with what I expected to hear.
Okay, thank you. Keith?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, I just have one question, Sandy. Was it a personal mobile number that was given to you on the night? And also, was the email address a personal email address, or was it the venue email address that was given you?
The details that were given to me were provided to me by Northampton Borough Council that they have on their systems for Mr. Gaetano. So I believe that they were the ones that he was using at the time for his business use.
Okay, so you can't actually state, because I believe in this statement that Mr. Gaetano gave his details to the officer attending the incident on the evening, his mobile number and email details. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's my job as a licensing PC to ascertain the details through more formal business capacity, which I did through Northampton Borough Council.
Okay, thank you. So, sorry, is that, so it was his personal details then that you were contacting Mr. Gaetano on then?
I believe it was, yeah. It was the details that I was given by my council colleagues.
Okay.
That are shown on their records.
Okay, thank you. Right. Moving on. I don't have any further questions. We're both Keith, Jake. No further questions. Okay. Can I ask Mr. Payne whether you have any questions at all?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay. I can't see any other questions at all. So if we move on, Mr. Payne, would you like to present your rebuttal to that, please?
I wonder whether we could just confirm with the police that they have concluded giving their evidence.
Yes, certainly. Is that all the evidence that the police wish to give, Sandy?
Well, there are a couple of things I would like to be able to mention during the course of the hearing. If you want me to mention those things now, then I'm more than happy to do that.
Yes, if you would, that would be helpful, I think, because if it becomes a contention, you know, a comment needed further in the hearing, we can do so. So if you wish to make any further comment, please go forward.
We have worked since the last hearing as requested, because it was adjourned. We have worked or tried to resolve the issues that we had with the conditions that I proposed. Should the committee be guided not to revocate the licence and to actually just impose conditions to try and put in place measures that if there is some kind of violent incident again, it can be better managed. And we have agreed everything in principle, except for the CCTV conditions and the SIA conditions. That is something that since I sent my reply back to Mr. Payne, I've made reference to the fact that I am not prepared to go with what he's proposed. And I think that would be better left for yourselves to make that decision. It needs to be fair, but it needs to be sort of proportionate to the capacity of the venue. But everything else that we have agreed on, and when myself and Mr. Catano spoke on the phone, I did explain to him that this isn't a personal thing. This is me. I'm a licensing PC. It's my job when an incident of this severity occurs at one of our licensed premises, it's my job to then step in and work in a partnership approach in the first instance, especially with our premises that's not a problem premises like the escape bar, it isn't, you know. So I explained to him that I would like to build some kind of relationship with him in the future, should he keep his license, to ensure that he feels that he can come to me and talk to me about problems that he has or help that he might need moving forward. But from my point of view, due to the severity and due to his lack of contact with me, I was left with no choice. There is another issue with crowds outside. A couple of months ago, we had a young man who was hit by a car and injured quite badly outside the front of the venue. So I do think there needs to be more measures put in place, should the licence remain, to ensure the safety of Mr. Catano's customers.
Thank you.
If there are anything else that comes up that's relevant during the course of the hearing, I would like to mention it, but as far as I'm concerned, that's all I've got to say at this stage.
Okay, thank you. If you wish to make a comment or raise a question, please just raise your hand and I'll be able to pick that up.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Payne, would you like to go forward now?
Yes, there is actually just one question I'd like to ask, if you'd indulge me. Could I just check that you do, as a housekeeping matter, first of all, have the bundle of papers, and also that the police have the bundle of papers that we served?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. We have everything that you sent through to us.
Very good. I wonder if I could just take the police officer to page 22 of the bundle that we've put together, and likewise councillors. That shows an aerial view of the club and the car park. I wonder whether the officer could indicate precisely where this incident took place with reference to that aerial photograph.
Right, I think is Sergeant O'Neill with us in the hearing now? Martin?
There's nobody in the waiting room.
Right, okay. As far as I'm aware, it took place opposite Domino's Pizza.
Right. When we say opposite Domino's Pizzas, Domino's Pizza is on the corner of Horseshoe Street and the entrance to the car park. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
We can see on the photograph, if we start on the right-hand side, there are a couple of trees and there's a white building. Then there's the entrance to the car park and there's Domino's Pizza on the left-hand side.
Yeah, it happened in the car park nearest to where the Domino's Pizza was. And then it's my understanding that Sergeant O'Neill spoke to Mr. Catano on the other side of the car park where he was putting out the bins nearest to the club.
So if one proceeds into the car park, there's a turning on the left that goes behind the club. Is that right? And we're talking about the incident occurring somewhere there, are we?
Yeah, it occurred in the car park in the vicinity of the club.
In the actual car park, right?
Yeah, I wasn't there when the incident occurred, so I'm not exactly sure where, but it happened in the car park adjacent to the club, and people that were involved in the incident confirmed that they had been inside the club.
Yeah, I'm just conscious, obviously, you've investigated part of this. You're looking at it from the licensing perspective. You've said it's in the vicinity of the club, and therefore I'm assuming that you have identified exactly where this took place. But if we take it as the entrance to the car park, where that turning is. Now, can I also ask whether the police have obtained any CCTV footage from Domino's Pizza or any of the other cameras in that car park area?
That would be a question that would need to be answered by the officer in the case, Mr. Payne. I'm not the officer in the case, I'm the licensing constable.
No, indeed. I'm grateful. Thank you. Chair, that's all that I have. Thank you. For the police, anyway.
Would Mr. Catano wish to make a statement?
Well, sir, I think that what I would like to do is I'd like to go through a number of witnesses that we have and give them the opportunity to say their piece, if you will. And if I could start off with Leona, who I think is online indeed. Now, if I'm right, Leona has submitted a number of documents. There's one which is a supporting representation at the beginning of the pack. And then there is a statement which appears on page 21 of our bundle. So, Leona, have you got copies of those papers?
Not with me to hand. I do apologise.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you able to get?
Yeah.
Are you able to get a copy?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I do apologise. I think probably while she's doing that, have you got them immediately to hand, or is it going to take?
Yes. Yeah.
You've got them now, have you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, very good. So if you look at page 21 of our bundle, there's a letter there to West Northamptonshire Council, signed by Leona Chambers. That's you.
That's correct.
Right. And you work at the premises from time to time. Can you just explain to the committee what you do? It's contained within your letter, but can you explain what you do there?
What I do at the escape venue in Northampton is stewarding, basically protecting vulnerable females from sexual predators, drugs, and anything I see that looks suspicious in the venue itself. And obviously, when I do find an issue, I contact the doorman. I get the doorman on the night to deal with the issue.
You're not a licensed SIA person yourself, are you?
I'm an ex-SIA licence holder.
So were you on duty on the 13th of June?
Unfortunately not.
Right. Have you at the club ever seen issues of knife crime or drugs? And have any of those issues, if you have seen them, caused you any concern?
In my personal opinion of being at that venue, no, I haven't. And that is the God's honest truth.
What would you do if you saw somebody brandishing a knife or appearing to brandish a knife at the premises?
The first thing I would do is call my colleague, the doorman in charge, detain the person and call the police for assistance and remove the weapon wearing gloves.
Okay. Has Mr. Catano mentioned anything to you about this incident that is said to have occurred?
No.
He hasn't discussed it with you? No. In terms of what you see taking place at the premises when people arrive, do you see any evidence of people being searched at all?
Yes, I see full body searches with the metal wands.
Right.
Full scans of IDs, and obviously if the IDs are not who they say they are, they get turned away from the premises.
And how long has that been going on for?
Quite some time from I've been around the venue.
Prior to the beginning of June, for instance?
Yes, it's always been in place.
Chair, in relation to the witnesses that I'm presenting to you, my suggestion is that perhaps I offer them for questions after they finish giving their evidence. If you're happy with that, I think that probably just helps manage the process better. I don't know, Leona, whether you've got anything else you want to say about how this club is particularly run and what your views are.
The club, in my eyes, is organised. It never goes over the capacity. Door staff, bar staff are all very welcoming. You can approach them. And me doing my undercover stewarding, I've had no issues or run-ins with the customers. I feel safe in the venue.
Good, thank you. Chair, do you or your colleagues have any questions?
If you wish to sort of bundle them all together, I haven't got any at the moment, thank you.
Chair, I'm grateful. In that case, could I ask Adi Kufa to give some evidence? You, I understand, were on the premises on the 13th of June. Your statement appears on page 19 of the bundle.
Yes, I was.
When did you arrive?
Around 10 p.m.
And how would you describe the atmosphere in the club at the time?
It was calm. It wasn't a typical club night because of, I remember that was when COVID restrictions were in place.
Yeah.
So it was everyone seated, background music, all the lights on. Yes.
How many people would you think were present when you arrived?
When I arrived, probably 10. It was a lot of people in the beginning. Yeah.
And then is it right that a group arrived a bit later on?
Later on, yeah. I would say maybe after midnight-ish, yeah.
About midnight. And were you there for any particular event? Was this a birthday party or was this a promoted event that was taking place?
To the best of my knowledge, it was a regular night. I just came out with my colleague just to, yeah.
Right, now in your statement, you say that you were there until about 3 a.m. in the morning and that you didn't witness any altercations at all inside the premises, is that right?
Yes.
And did you, before this review hearing, did you know about what had happened a bit later on in the car park?
Yeah, a bit later on, yes.
When did you find out about that?
Later on at night, I went up to Wellenby Road and somebody had mentioned, oh, there was a lot of police in the, at the car park. Apparently somebody had gotten stopped.
Right. But is it right to say that you are not aware of anything that took place in the venue and that there were certainly no altercations? That's your evidence, is it not?
Yes.
Right. You say that you quite like going to the escape venue. Can you explain to the committee why that is?
There's hardly any trouble. Everyone is friendly, and whenever there's any sort of trouble, the security is really quick in dealing with the problems. It's in my opinion, it's one of the safest places in our town center that I feel like I belong as well. So yeah, there's hardly any trouble. Yes.
And have you ever seen searching going on of customers when they come in?
Yes.
You have. Yeah. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to tell the committee today?
No, that's okay.
Thank you very much. Very good. If we could go to Mr. Udo, who is one of the security team at the premises.
Yeah.
Now you have submitted a letter to the police as well. Can you just explain to the committee what you do at the premises, at the club?
Yeah, hello. Sorry, my name is Udo Abangudo, and I work as the head doorman in Escape. Sorry about that, that's my daughter. Pertaining to the event, to the incident that happened, to be honest, I wasn't aware of anything until Danny told me a couple of weeks after, because on that night, I was there that night and I didn't notice anything suspicious. There was nothing going on that I would have been, that would have alerted me to any incidents or any situation happening afterwards.
So you manage a team of door supervisors, is that right?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And how many do you normally have on an evening?
On a normal night where we don't have nothing on it, because most times it's pretty much not too busy. So on a normal night, we pretty much have like at least 4 on a normal.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Now, if there is an incident at the premises, what are the instructions, if any, to your staff about reporting that incident?
We normally log it down and we talk about it at the end of it, see if we had handled it properly, and if there's anything to would have done any much better than what we did. But in most cases, we would have locked it down if there was anything really, important to deal with. But at that night, no.
Okay. If there had been an incident, do you think you would have known about it?
Yeah, I would have, definitely.
And I know you're not on oath, but essentially your evidence is that you weren't aware of any incident taking place inside the club. Is that right?
No, nothing at all. Like I said, I pretty much only got knowledge about this through Danny a few weeks, and the way it came out, I was even shocked because it was like, the club license is under review, and I was like, what for? And then it took me through the night, and I was like, but I didn't hear nothing about it. And he said, yeah, pretty much this is what happened. And I was like, oh, but there was nothing going on in the club, and I didn't even know that something of that nature happened outside.
Right. What's your policy on searching people when they come into the premises?
We normally use metal searching equipment, and in most cases, because we do have up to at least 2 securities at the front. So when one is using the metal one, the other will sometimes, like even me, I mostly prefer patting people down, because I feel like that's much more efficient, because I can go around properly and feel things, feel car keys, tell them to take it out, feel phones, anything of any object. I would personally prefer the pat down, so I can basically, check it properly. But yeah, we do.
Good. What would you do if you found a weapon on somebody?
I've never done, but what I would do, I would have, I would confiscate it, and then I would call the police, and I would reject the person entry to the premises, and definitely be a ban, because that would not be allowed anywhere.
Now, would you say that knife crime is a particular issue around this area of Northampton, in your view?
I'm not really familiar with knife crimes because Escape hasn't really given me, I've been there for a few times, and he hasn't really given me anything to be concerned of. I mean, probably hearing about it around Northampton on rare occasions, but definitely not anything to do with Escape, no.
What would you say are the biggest issues at the moment for you as a doorman and for a club to do with the safety of customers?
Like any other club, pretty much, people have a misunderstanding within the club, and it's not really a problem to me because it's what we are trying to do. So I mostly stepped in and, try and dissolve it. If it cannot be dissolved, we basically try to get one of the party to a safe zone, or get the agitator out of the club, just to, minimize. Yeah.
You say in your statement, some of the things that you look at are potential unacceptable behaviours like drug dealing, sexual harassment, and dealing with altercations. Is drug dealing or sexual harassment, spiking drinks, that sort of thing, for sexual harassment purposes, is that something that you have seen in the club or around the area?
No, the spiking of the drinks, not anything to do. This weekend gone, where I see there was this lady that came out with a guy, and they had a bit of an argument outside the club when we were shot. So in those kind of situations, yeah, I do step in. Like even this last weekend that I stepped in, I bring the lady back in the club and shut the door because there was some kind of argument going on between her and I don't know if the guy was a boyfriend. So yeah, in those kind of situation, I will step in, but nothing to do with spiking of drinks. Sexual assaults, if we notice anything, we get the guy out. Can
I just pick up on this incident that you dealt with? You're saying that the club was closed, is that right?
Yeah.
But you were still there?
Yeah, I was still there. Yeah.
Can you just describe exactly what happened?
Oh, okay. So obviously I noticed they came in together. I noticed they were because me, I'm very observant. So I noticed there was some kind of the girl moving away from the guy every now and then, and the guy kept following her. So I stepped in. I'm like, is there any issue? She went, no, there's nothing. She didn't want to talk about it. So at the end of the club, they step outside. I was inside with another doorman called Eric. and all we could hear is shouting outside at the front. So we rushed at me and Eric, and obviously Eric stepped in to intervene, and I was basically, because the lady, I basically went behind her and tried to get her to climb back the stairs of escape, because this was down like outside the club basically. So I stepped back and I was talking to her. I'm like, just come in, let me talk to you. And she was climbing up the staircase while Eric was standing, although the guy wanted to actually fight the doorman. So I had to get her in safely, come back, and then tell Eric, you know, don't worry, the girl is safe. Let's get back in the club. And that's what we did. So we went back in and locked the door. I don't know what instigated it, because like I said, the girl she wasn't really formal with it. She was just like, oh, he's just pissing me off.
But are you saying that these people had been in your club before, or they hadn't been in your club before?
They were in the club.
They weren't, right? But you looked after her nevertheless. Have you had any other instance where you've had to intervene with people on the street or help people on the street while you've been on duty?
Yep, exactly. On Friday, I think to be precise, there was we just had a normal night, and all of a sudden this guy walked in. He didn't have a t-shirt on. He had blood running down his like body. I didn't know what happened. So obviously people in the club started panicking because they didn't know what was going on. They thought someone was stabbed in the club, but the guy walked in with the shirt off. So I basically told the guy, you know what, come, let me talk to you. Because everyone in the club was panicking. So just to reduce that, I had to take him back towards the front door, not outside the club, because I don't know what happened outside. So I had to take him back while the other security guy grabbed a bottle of water. So we rushed out and we're trying to get the police. We're trying to get the guy to sit down. And I was trying to talk to him, but it was like, no, he doesn't want to sit down. He asked me, where is the nearest hospital? So I was like, don't worry, we can make a call for you. You know, we can call the ambulance to come through. We can get the police involved. He's like, no. But during the time, he was walking down the staircase as well. And I noticed that I think the incident started in the nearby club. So the head doorman there, because when I asked the guy, he said he's the head doorman. So I noticed a security guy from the other club standing in front of the escape, already on the phone call. So I was like, who are you calling? He said, he's trying to get the ambulance and the police to come down. So I said, okay. So, but the guy was walking towards Domino's, and we both followed the guy, me and the other head doorman. We both followed him, trying to talk to him. And then he stopped at Domino's, walked backward towards Elysium, walked past Escape. And right at that moment, the police turned up. So we just handed everything to the police, and I went back in the club.
Right. So if I can summarize what you seem to be saying, please correct me if I'm wrong, this seems to have been an incident that was involved with an adjacent premises that they were already dealing with. The person came down the road, saw that you were open, came in, you helped deal with them, and then you transferred the matter back to that club. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? Right.
Yeah, I walked back with him, tried to get him the ambulance, but like I said, the head doorman to the club was already on the phone to the police. And during that time, the police turned up, so everything was kind of sorted right then.
Good, thank you. Is there anything else that you want to tell the committee today about?
To be honest, when it comes to Escape, I don't really have much issues. Like I said, I live in Northampton, and pretty much most of the people that come to Escape, I wouldn't say I know everyone, but they all mostly know me and I know them. So in most cases, it's a matter of, you know, based on, I wouldn't say I have a relationship with them, like I said, but it helps minimize problems because it's mostly people that I deal with on a regular basis. You know, meet them in town, meet them in the shops, and I'm never worried about it because I'm always walking around. So I'm never worried about any incident and anything because most people that comes are people that pretty much would know. So if I tell them not tonight, or if there's any issue and I pull them to the side and I said, look, listen, we're not going to deal with that tonight. Any other day is fine, but tonight I just think you should be going home. Like, and in 100, maybe 80% of it, they will be like, okay, we understand, because there's some kind of rapport going on every now and then. We basically treat our customers as friendly as we could. So we never really had anything to really worry about, I'm sure. You know, if we had, we would have been locking down, and the police sometimes come to the venue as well. The few occasions they've come to the door, what is going on? Sometimes it's regular night, sometimes we have an event, "Oh, can we have access to the club?" I said, "Yeah, why?" Sometimes I walked in with them, showed them around, showed them the toilet, take them to the smoking area, and we never had any issues. They would just said, "Okay, thanks for giving us access. If there's any problem, let us know." And I would be like, "Yeah, that's fine." We're always very cordial with the police. There's never been an issue. And for me personally, whenever I walk into the club, before I start any shift, I have to go around the club, check the fire exit, check in between chairs to see if anyone have left anything for any reason before the club and after the club. I have to do my routine checks. Even when the club is running, I have a little torchlight that I have with me, and I'll go around everywhere to make sure that everything is in order. So yeah, pretty much very safe zone for me. I don't really have any issue.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excuse me, Mr. Payne.
Yes.
Can we keep the representations to relevant matters to do this particular review today, please?
Yes, of course. I will try my best to do exactly that. Obviously, the evidence that you're hearing is about the way that the club is run, and that's really quite crucial in terms of what the police are saying and whether there's a partnership approach, whether the club is actually doing what it's supposed to do to make sure that the licensing objectives are upheld. But we will try and keep to the point. If I could ask Roshan Williamson, perhaps to give evidence now. Roshan, you're someone who's made a representation on the application, and unfortunately the pages I don't have here being numbered, but you're a manager at the escape venue, is that right? Sorry, is Roshan online?
I don't think she's online, John.
Right. Okay, very well. In that case, I think we should perhaps come to Mr. Coutinho, and the evidence that he gives is on page 1 of the bundle that we've provided. Mr. Coutinho, can you just give a brief outline of your involvement in the club? What's your role? What do you do? And can you just explain a little bit about the club, just in a few words, to keep things succinct for the committee, please?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Coutinho. I'm the DPS for the venue in question, that's the Escape venue at 5 Horseshoe Street. I have been for the last 4 years. The venue is open nowadays pretty much every day. It's open 6 days a week. We are only shut on Mondays. So our opening hours on Monday to Thursday is from 1400 hours to 2300. From Friday to Saturday is from midday to 0400 hours in the morning. And then on Sunday, we are open from midday to 2300 hours. The reason of this is because now we've integrated the kitchen in. It's not like predominantly just a nightclub. It's involving a food element. So we have daytime operations in there. Reason why I'm bringing in this opening hours is, should there be any incident, anything like this of any kind in the future, if you have allowed us to continue operating, the police or any authorities can actually come in, visit us during the day. We are not just only opening in the night time. They can actually come in during the day and ask us for any information. I will go forward to this because there's more people who have been trained now who can actually provide any CCTV footage moving forward from now. I'm aware that the council, I've read the paperwork that the council has presented, and also I've presented some pictures for you to have a look at how the inside of the venue looks like. These pages can be found on page 5 to 10 of the pack that we supplied. It is not, you can see that it's not just a nightclub scenery in there. We have put in a lot of work to actually make it as good as we could do, and as safe as you can see. The lighting and everything appears as we could do. So this is also to make people comfortable and safe when they are in. The venue provides a vital community shield in keeping youngsters, mainly the members in the BM community. We have used music platforms to change lives of these youngsters around the last 4 years. There's testimonies after testimonies, of which some of them, if I brought them on this, they will take off time on this to just testify what the venue has done to them. And that gives us the energy and the courage to continue doing what we do. Escape is not just a nightclub, it's a community hub for all these youngsters that around Northampton. Work with very many charities, and we continue to do that work to actually use music to take these kids away from crime and disorder of the street. I employ over 44 people in that club. Now, I'm extremely worried and concerned about the result of this hearing, because this depends on the livelihood of people. People have got mortgages, bills and stuff and everything to pay, the people who rely on this venue. So if the license is revoked or severely curtailed, it is going to have not an impact just only on me, but on those people that rely on this, the income that comes from this facility. I've read the application and for review, and I can say the last 18 months, as like any other venue in this sector, in the hospitality industry, we have been hit hard. It's been exceptionally hard. The very time that we were just about to open and reorganize ourselves for reopening, that was early in July. That is the very week that we were served with the notice for the review of the license. So as you can imagine, all the time, all the resources, everything that we would have just actually directed towards reorganizing ourselves after lockdown has been diverted towards preparing ourselves for this case. And for that reason, we are struggling, and we are in a mess right now. We are in financial difficulty right now, and we don't know what to turn to, because as I go ahead, you'll see we are continuing to do a lot of work with the police, and we are arguing the police to come and work with us. No, we don't feel any remorse or anything that they're against us, but I will show you as we go ahead the amount of work that we're doing behind the scenes with the police to show you that we are determined to improve our relationship and to prevent crime and disorder in our community. On the night, I can confirm that yes, I was at the venue on the night of the alleged incident. I met the police officer that was at the back of the venue when I just bumped into her. I did not say she called at the door to request for the footage. I was taking rubbish bins into the bins at the back, and then I bumped into her. She was in there. She was getting into a police car that had been parked outside there. I saw people right down at the car park, and I said, "Oh, officer, what happened?" She said, "Oh, there has been an incident down the road, down in the car park, but this has got nothing to do with you. It seems like someone was waiting for the victim in the car park, and then they knew the victim was in your venue, and when the victim left, he went down. He must have been attacked in there and was stabbed, but he has been taken to the hospital." I said, "Oh, that's sad." And then she said, "Oh, don't worry, that's Northampton for you. That is Northampton." So that night, she did not ask me, "We want CCTV footage." She actually said to me, truthfully, in her own words, said that this has nothing to do with you, because the incident happened away from your venue. In her own words, I repeat, this has nothing to do with you. The incident happened away from your venue, and but we'll let you know if we need anything. So she left, and I got back into the venue, and we were just chatting. We sat down and we went home. So that was my recollection of that night. As for the for the work we have done, even before this review came through, we had already introduced the search warrants there are a lot of measures we had put in place. We have been such, we have a very strong, like you had from the security guard. We have a lot of, our such policy has been reviewed and has been strengthened because from the last 4 years we've learned, and we are now getting more experience, and we're changing things. The previous licensing police guy who was there, Chris, I can't remember the other name. He came in there and he did a lot of work with us. Part of the things he came in and reviewed the whole risk assessment with him, because he realized how we were not good at the things we needed to improve on. So from day one, we have worked with the police. We don't see this as an attack on us, but we welcome every single suggestions they bring. We are willing to work with the police in that perspective. So we've got the search warrants in place. We have got a big screen at the front. When people walk in, they can see themselves on the screen, so they know they are on CCTV. That alone deters a lot of bad behavior inside, because people know straight away, oh, I've been recorded on camera. We have pumped up our numbers in security. We don't put on any event without security in there. Okay, so we have spent nearly about £5,000 recently, just after the review was, and then we learned that our box was only recording for 28 days. We had to upgrade our system, our CCTV system, to record up to 30 days now, with 32 cameras in the premises. If I was requested CCTV even right now, I can actually send it to you just by the touch of my mobile phone. I don't have to go to the venue to do that footage. So I don't have any reason to doubt that the police have tried to send me an email or anything. I don't have any reason to disbelieve them, but these emails must have, I believe they must have gone to my inbox, in junk box, and then eventually got erased over time, because this was proven on the just on 27th of August. PC David Dawkins called me, this is on a separate incident, but this is from the police department, called me to ask me if I've received an email from him that he was trying to get some evidence from me for a different case. In looking in my inbox, there was no email. I checked in but he said he had sent me an email about 3 days ago. So I went in my junk box. I found that email was in my junk box. I asked him, oh, I'm having my license reviewed on a different premises. And one of the reasons is because I've not seen the emails that has come from the police. Is this something that would have experienced? That's me asking the police officer in the past. Say, yeah, it's common thing. Not sometimes emails coming from the police do go into junk mailbox. But because he rang me after 3 days after he sent the email, I was able to retrieve that email from the junk mailbox, and I acted on it, and things were resolved on the day. So this I'm guessing this could have been exactly the same situation that has happened to the missing of the emails from the police. As for after the incident, I've sat down and I've interviewed all my staff. All of them have declined not to have seen anything happening on the night. They have not seen, and they've said they have not seen any altercation inside the venue. Neither have they seen the bat or the knife presented in the venue. The issue of the phone, of mobile phone, the police not being able to get hold of me. I would like to say just the least, I'm still a serving soldier in the British Army, currently serving in the public joint headquarters in Northwood. For security reasons, I am not allowed to have my mobile phone on me during working hours. This explains why, if I've been called during the days Monday to Thursday or Friday, I'm not contactable. But we have a mobile phone business mobile phone on our Google page. So just Google Escape Venue. There's a number there, business phone, that's manned 24 hours. Failure to do that, our licensing, our legal team, they have a 24 hours telephone system. It always can be contactable, and they will pass the message to us and we'll act accordingly. Also, in the email that we've got on our Google page is a business email. It's monitored by not just me, but other members of staff. So there are so many ways, the venue being open every day, there's a business email address available. There's legal advisor telephone contact available. There is a business telephone phone available. It is not just my private mobile number that the council has. That is the only source. It's not the only source you can get hold of me if there's any incident. I would say, please, let's try this other means if possible. There's an issue that was raised by the neighbors as far as the littering and the crime and disorder at the front of the building. We have a big issue left and the right. So when you come out of Escape, on the left, we have the flats that they have now converted into student accommodation. And then on the right, we have a nightclub that opens until 6 o'clock. So these new flats, we had a serious objection to convert, to put a residential area right on the doorstep of 2 nightclubs. We thought that was the wrong idea. We objected against it, but the planning committee went ahead and granted them permission to put people to sleep there. Now, the issues that we raised that will happen, they're happening. The problem we have, we can control what is inside our premises, but we can't control what is going on in that flat. There are after parties going on in that flat. So when people come out, they are going in that flat for after party. My doorman cannot go in and control the crowd in there. So the congregations you're seeing outside Escape, they are not as a result of our failure to control our crowd. It's because some of them are saying, oh, I'm going inside that flat, I'm going there for after party. Some of them are saying, oh, I'm waiting to get into the club next door. I'm queuing up to get into the club next door. So we can try, we do what we can after we've finished. Our dispersal policy from inside out to outside is quite clear and quite robust. But when we are faced with these challenges of two challenges outside, it is very difficult to control. We will take on any suggestions from these, but that's the challenge we are having, and we are trying to do everything we can to make sure it doesn't continue. That brings me to the issue of trading outside our trading licensing hours. That's truly not true. I and the 2 managers that work in there, we both have full-time jobs, so we cannot wait to finish work so we go on to our full-time job. So we are always closing even before time. So the suggestion that we are trading outside the licensing hours is truly not true. The other issue that I want to say, like I touched on, is our time and efforts we are putting in to work with the authorities. After the adjournment of the last of this hearing, we are grateful that you granted us more time to prepare ourselves. The police suggested that we for a proposed meeting to actually go through the conditions, but this meeting was turned down at last minute. I'm sorry to say this is not the last time the police has turned down meetings for when things like this come up. On the 16th of September 20, we invited the authorities, that's the police, the licensing, the environment, and the fire, to come along. We had done a risk assessment because we have just remodeled the whole business. We asked them to come and help us to look at what we have done, look at the risk assessment that we have done, and advise us the way forward, how we're doing it. This was our own initiative. It's not like theirs. So the licensing and the environment turned up. The police on last minute turned down. They didn't turn up. So, but we are desperate to have a good relationship with the police and work together to actually move forward, because it's not like we're doing what they're asking us to do, and we will continue to listen to their suggestions that they come forward for. Just to give you a few examples of things that we're doing with the police. On Monday this week, I'm the representative of the businesses on Horseshoe Street and Gold Street. So in that capacity, I was sat in a meeting with the PFCC, Mr. Stephen Mould, and the police crime commissioner. And the issues we discussed in that meeting was quite obvious, or quite heartwarming to see that they welcome the issues we are facing in the community, and they are quite open to the idea that we are part of the solution, but not a problem. He is welcomed a lot of suggestions I suggested to him, but that's not part of this. But just to let you know, we are working with every level of police to actually engage and resolve the crime problems we have in our community. Just in July, we were part of the team that sat down to launch what is now going on called Operation Kayak. Operation Kayak is just an operation going on with undercover policing, going around nightclubs in the night to actually see and deter any sexual or disrupt any predatory behaviors. So they send police people outside in the night, go into clubs and see if there's any problem in that venue, and then they can report it and deal with it. Throughout the whole lockdown, we were part of the campaign, what is called Amnesty in Northampton. We did a lot of work to actually get knives off the street. All our social media was filled with promotion of these adverts. So in the nutshell, we are doing everything we can to solve the problems we have in our community. We are not a problem to the security and safety and crime and disorder in our community. We are a solution to this, and we are willing to work with you, with the police, with every authority to actually make things better for our community. Thank you. Thank you. That's me.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Kitano. Before I actually ask any questions of your statement, I now see that Police Officer Sally O'Neill is now on the Zoom meeting. Can I ask Police Officer O'Neill whether there's any information she wishes to put towards the hearing, please? You're showing us on mute. Ah, there you go. You got to.
Sorry, it's not good with the technology. Yeah, I don't really. I think you should have all had a copy of my statement, which I provided to PC Tracy regarding the particular incident that I was involved in. I find it difficult, firstly, to say that I didn't ask for CCTV. I think it's a basic requirement as an investigating officer. That it wouldn't have been something that I asked for, but it certainly was something that I'd attended that venue for. Mr. Kitano's statements, some of them are just factually incorrect. At the time of arriving at the scene, my vehicle was parked outside Domino's Pizza, which is around 30 metres, I would suggest, from the actual venue itself. The reason I wasn't able to park any closer was because of the sheer amount of people that were actually in the car park, the number of vehicles. So for him to say that I was just getting into my car when he happened to see me to ask what was happening is factually incorrect. He would never have seen me near my vehicle. I attended the venue and spoke to 2 members of staff who were at the rear door and specifically asked for him to come and speak to me. And yes, the stabbing incident didn't happen inside the venue. I'm not suggesting that it did, but the information we were provided with was that both the offender and the suspect, the offender and the victim had been inside that venue at some point during the evening.
Okay, is that all you wish to say?
Yeah, I think so. Unless you've got any specific questions for me, as I say, I think my my statement covers most of my involvement with the incident and with Mr. Coutinho.
Okay. Did Mr. Coutinho, as you said in your statement, he supplied you with a mobile number
That's
and an
correct,
email address?
Yes.
Were they personal addresses, email address, and a personal mobile number?
Yeah, he didn't provide me with an email address. I'm looking at my notebook here, which I have access to online. He provided me with his name, his date of birth, and a mobile telephone number ending in 761. I don't know if that was a personal number, but that was the number that he provided me with.
Okay, okay. He didn't mention the business telephone number or email address then?
No. No,
Okay.
as I say, I made a note of everything. It's time stamped in my pocket notebook because it's all done via our electronic devices now. And as I say, he said that there was a birthday party, that the group had arrived. He happened to know the person who was, as he described, the birthday boy. He gave me his name, date of birth, and a telephone number, and he didn't specify if that was personal or work.
Okay, thank you. Keith, do you have any questions of Police Officer O'Neill?
I do have some questions on the evidence that was previously given.
Well, from Mr. Catano?
Yeah, and his staff.
Yep, okay. Where are we? Jake?
Hi there, yeah, I have one question to ask Mr. Udo, actually, about the
Okay, Jake, do you not have any questions of Police Officer O'Neill?
I don't know. No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we can now revert back to Mr. Catano and your statement. I understand, Keith, you have some questions of Mr. Catano.
And also some of his colleagues as well.
Okay,
so,
yeah, please go forward.
Aderubi, you mentioned that when you arrived, there was 10 people at the beginning and a group arrived at 12 midnight. Can you confirm how many arrived at midnight, please?
I couldn't tell you the numbers. It got busier over time, but I couldn't tell you the exact numbers. I was just there for a night out.
Can you estimate at all?
So downstairs, I would say give and take around 30, over just 30 people, and upstairs there were some people as well.
So 30 people downstairs, did you say? And some people upstairs?
Yeah, so some people upstairs. They were in booths upstairs, yes.
Okay. And I noticed that Leona has just left. Wanted to clarify something I might have misheard. On page 21 of the bundle that Danny and his representative provided, can you just confirm whether she was or wasn't present on the 13th of June?
I speaking to me, Keith?
I'm asking Mr. Payne, the representative, and Danny.
Yes, indeed, you're quite right on the evidence that she gives on page 21. She was there at the premises. She's written that and signed that.
So she was present. Okay, thank you. And just one final question is, what's your capacity of the venue?
Mr. Catano, can you answer that one?
Yes, indeed, I can. The capacity is legally, originally is from the fireman perspective about 600, but right now we are not even operating to that level. We are looking at we are about half of that capacity because some of the rooms, one room has been converted into a kitchen, the other room is not used because it's been used as a store. So we are now using only the main room, which is about 300 people.
And actually, I do have one follow-up question. So just mentioning on page 7, you in your bundle, you provided a picture of your entrances. And I just wanted to check. So can you just confirm which doors you use for letting your customers in?
So the door on the top, on the left-hand side, you can see queuing barriers.
Yeah.
So that top, yeah, that's the door. That's the main entrance to the club.
So do you use the one further along at the back, or do you use the one on the right, just at the top of the stairs?
We don't use the one at the back, the one further down, because this is again based on the review we did with the police, with the licensing police, quite a couple of years ago, and they realized that the issues we are having, we are not able to control the crowd coming to do the right checks inside, because of the way the reception on the other side is formed. So this gives us a better way of managing the crowd if we brought the crowd from this side. That's why we moved to this door as our main entrance.
So basically, just to confirm that your entrance that you use is on page 6 at the top of the stairs on the right hand side, nearest to the flats.
No, page 7 on top. Yeah. The page 6, the stairs. Yeah, that goes through. Yes, that's the. Yeah, sorry.
On number 7, it's the one on the right hand side.
Yes.
Okay, and your queuing mechanism is basically down those steps to the front. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes,
okay,
on your left hand side.
And do you go to around the corner to the flats, or to the other side across the car park?
Say that again, please.
So you've got the entrance car park on the left hand side.
Yes.
Queues that you have.
Yeah.
They go down the steps. Are they on the right hand side towards the flats, or to the left hand side where there's the car park, the driveway?
The left hand side by the driveway. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I wonder if I could just interject here to make sure that we're absolutely clear about the queuing system that takes place. I understand that there can be on a busy night typically up to 30 people in the queue, and the way that the queuing arrangement works is that people walk up the stairs that you can see on page 6, and to the left hand side of the barrier, which is perhaps easier seen on page 7, they then go down the length of that barrier and then snake back up towards the entrance door. That's my understanding of the way that it works, and Mr. Coutinho will contradict me. And that in itself is sufficient to accommodate the queuing so that there is no need to queue on the street. Mr. Coutinho perhaps can verify whether that's correct. My understanding is correct.
Yes, that's correct. So to give you walk you through it, on page number 6, you see the stairs, okay? So we walk through on that stairs, and then when we get to the landing on top of those stairs, now we divert the traffic to go in the single file system. So they go to the left on those barriers. If you turn your page to number 7, on the barriers on your left hand side, you they go all the way down to the bottom, to the end of those barriers. Then you turn around. That's the first man coming through. Then they come to the right, and then the first man forms at the front of that barrier on your right hand side, and then it's there there will be security there, releases one by one to get searched as we admit them into the venue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all your questions, Keith?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Jay, do you have any questions at all?
Yes, I do. I'm just sort of gathering my notes. It's for the SIA representative here is Mr. Udo. I'd just like to ask him a question, if that's okay. My question is this. You use a sort of situation where you obviously get people coming in the door, you pat them down for security reasons, for obviously offensive weapons, drugs, etc. Did you say you actually have use of a metal detector, and what type is it?
A similar metal detector you use is the handhold, the one that you use to scan through the body.
The wand type sort of metal detector, like they use sometimes at airports as well, yeah?
Exactly, yeah. But not the walk-through one, just the hand one that you use to.
Okay.
But like I said, I prefer to use my hands most times.
Okay, but you say you think patting down is more efficient, etc. Would you say that patting down as opposed to using a metal detector, you're more likely to find any offensive weapons?
Yeah. For like, obviously, both do the same job, but because I said I could basically feel and touch if I notice anything, you know, because obviously metal detector, it wouldn't really detect drugs and things like that. So, but if you pat down, you could feel if there's a lump or anything in someone's pocket, and I'll be like, oh, sorry, please, can you check that out? You know, things like that.
But in this specific occasion, we talk about an incident about a knife. So therefore, by that rationale, then using a metal detector, you'd say is less likely to pick up a knife than what a patting down is. Patting down.
No, it will pick up a knife. It will pick up a knife. Is sufficient. We use both at the same time anyway, so we don't basically use, you know, they're both present.
Both of the questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I've just got a couple of questions of Mr. Kitano, if I may, please. Can I just confirm from you what information you gave to Police Officer O'Neill on the evening? Can you just confirm to me what information you actually gave her?
Yes, I can confirm I spoke to the police officer on the night.
Yeah.
If I was to give out the number, and this is a far way back. I was just rushing back in the recollection of what the conversation I had with the police officer is what I gave. As whether the number I gave to him, the number what I could give out, or maybe to my friend or something, would be my personal number. So that would be if she mentioned 761. That's my personal mobile number.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just a little bit confused that obviously the police were using that number to try and contact you between where are we? The 14th and the 28th of June, and you're saying your phone failed to show any missed calls, and it also failed to log any missed voicemails. Is that correct?
My phone my mailbox is full of voicemails, so I don't receive any voicemails left over. Because then
I'm sorry.
I did not get any text of any missed calls from there. And in most cases, when can you hear me?
Excuse me, Mr. Kitano.
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we're getting I think a little bit of a connection problem with your voice. Could you repeat your answer there, please?
So I was saying my phone mailbox is full, has been full, and lately I've deleted it. Now I could, but my mail is full. I could not receive any messages left in a voicemail left on my phone. And during the pandemic, the number that most of the contacts were coming, I've not received a text message to tell me someone was trying to call me. I would normally call back. So I've not had anything to tell me, or the police was trying to call me on my phone. But again, when I'm at work, I don't have access to my phone for the whole day. That's from 7 to 6 o'clock in the evening. I wouldn't have any access to my phone.
Okay, so but normally though, when you switch your phone back on, you would normally get any missed calls. You'd get notification of those on your phone once you switch it on, and you're now stating that this did not happen.
No, I didn't see any text messages that has come in that someone has tried to call me. And at that time, it will come just either withheld if it's from the police, or it's come as a mobile number. But at that time, at 6 o'clock, you call some. I wouldn't know whether it's the police or not. If it would be helpful if I had the voicemail, I would know, or the police tried to call me. But if it's just a mobile number that, or this number tried to call you, I wouldn't know if it's a police, because it's not saved on my phone that I would know it belongs to so and so who tried to call me. It would be just a random number tried to call me. So I wouldn't know it was the police trying to call me.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions at this time. Can I ask? Oh, excuse me. Lost these. Can I ask all parties now if they could sum up, please? So if I could ask Police Officer Tracy to sum up.
Yeah, before I do so, would you mind if I ask a couple of questions?
No, certainly, please. Yeah, no, please do.
Thank you. I've got a question for the hostess, Iona. Is she still with us?
I don't think so. I don't see her on the on my screen.
Leanna had to leave for work, unfortunately.
Okay, well, I'll ask you, Mr. Payne, what is the capacity of the venue, please? Because this lady explained that she knew the capacity of the venue and she never allowed the venue to go over capacity. So Mr. Catoni says it's approximately 600. What is the capacity of the venue, please?
But Chair, is that the license does not set a capacity on the premises. The only capacity that is, I suppose, what intended is that which is part of the fire risk assessment, which you've heard, I think, was 600. That is the capacity that can be accommodated. But as Mr. Katuna says, that's not what they operate to. But
no, I heard what Mr. Katona said. He said about 600, and I just wanted a more specific number.
Well, the reality is that there is no specific number that is set. Chair, that is the answer that I think is all.
But it's set by the fire service, Mr. Payne, the safety aspects. Not legally on the document, on the license, but it is set through the fire authority when they go in and do a fire inspection. That's what I was asking for.
I'm sorry to disagree on a point of law, but that is not correct. The Regulatory Reform Fire Safety Order puts the onus upon the occupier of the premises to carry out an assessment to determine the numbers of people that can be on the premises. The fire authority doesn't do that. There used to be, under the Fire Precautions Act, a method of the fire authority issuing what was called a fire certificate, and I'm sure we're all familiar with those. But since the RRO, the Regulatory Reform Fire Safety Order, has come into force, that has gone by the board. So the onus is very much in law on the occupier of the premises. The premises have assessed it at 600. That's what they view is the number. The fire authority has not come in and made any demand that the capacity is any particular level. That, I'm afraid, is the position in law.
Right, okay, so we've established it at 600, thank you. I've got a question in relation, or I've got a concern actually, in relation to the SIA. And I think there's perhaps a training issue here that the committee might want to consider moving forward in their decision making. The doorman that we spoke to, he said that when they seize knives from customers, or if they were to seize knives from customers, they would not allow that person entry. The doorman was also put on the spot a little bit, I felt unfairly, when he was asked whether or not knife crime was an issue in that location. And I don't think he's qualified to give an answer to that. That's something that me as a police officer would argue, or perhaps know a little bit more about. We have a knife crime problem across the country at the moment. For example, in our county, Wellingborough is in the top 5 towns in the UK with issues with gang crime and gang violence, predominantly knife crime. So for them to say that if they were to locate a knife on a customer, that they would seize the knife and not allow that customer entry concerns me, because what they should be doing is seizing the knife and calling the police. Because for somebody who wants to go into a licensed premises with a knife, it gives me great cause for concern, the safety of the customers. In relation to the information that's been given by Mr. Katono. He has stated that we have not.
Sorry, Chair. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm conscious that you were giving the police opportunity to ask questions rather than to make statements, and that's what they're doing at the moment. I'm a bit of a stickler for procedure on this, and could I ask that it's drawn back to questions, unless, of course, the officer wants to proceed now to summing up.
I apologise. I'll ask my questions first, and then I'll make my statement later. It was mentioned that a risk assessment visit was done by Sergeant Chris Stevens when he was a licensing officer. Is there anything in relation to this in the evidential bundle to verify that this has happened?
Chair, you will know from looking at the bundle there isn't. It is the oral evidence that is given, and I'm conscious that there is no evidence being given to say that it didn't happen. It is oral evidence, and it's for you to decide whether Mr. Katono is indeed telling the truth on that. He has no reason not to tell the truth, I would suggest.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we will certainly consider that when we adjourn to make our decision. But carry on, PC Tracy.
Right, the other question. Oh, and my last question is, the head doorman said that full body search is conducted when people come into the premises. Is the front door covered by CCTV?
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So the area where the full body searches are conducted is covered by CCTV?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Lovely. Okay. Thank you. And everything else that I have. Oh, yes, sorry, one more question. So on the night, the lady that spoke, she said it was extremely busy. How do you monitor your capacity? How do you know how many people you've got in the club?
So is the question for me or for Danny?
Whoever can answer the question.
We use clickers.
You've got clickers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The rest of the things that I've got to say are statements, and I'll do that when I'm given the opportunity to say what.
Yeah, right. No, actually, I'm giving you the opportunity now to sum up, if you wish.
Thank you. Right. So from my point of view, I actually find all this really quite frustrating because Mr. Katono gave his private number to my colleague, Sergeant O'Neill, and that was the number that I was trying to make contact with him on. Mr. Katono knew that there had been a stabbing outside his premises that night. And he knew that there was probably quite a good chance that the police would be contacting him in order to try and gain evidence to conduct an investigation and gather that CCTV, which is potentially vital. For him to say that police numbers are withheld, my police number from my police work phone is not withheld. My number comes up on a phone when I phone it. I actually don't like using the landline phones because they are the ones that are withheld. So my mobile number would have come up on Mr. Katono's phone a few days after this stabbing had occurred. And as a responsible operator, I would have expected him to perhaps think that that might have been a police officer. I didn't get any message on the answer phone facilities to say that his mailbox was full and that I couldn't leave a message. Every time I phoned, I left a long message with my contact details saying that it was important that he got in touch with me. I've given him the opportunity to work in a partnership approach with us. And I believe that Mr. Katono buried his head in the sand, and he knew that potentially there were still rules and regulations in place in regards to COVID, rules with COVID and the amount of people that had potentially been in his club that night. And I'm not sure whether or not we will ever be able to establish the facts, because if there was CCTV evidence, we would have been able to establish whether or not Mr. Katono was telling the truth as to whether or not anything happened in there or any of his staff were telling the truth. From my point of view, I'm actually quite good at what we do, and I've got a really good working relationship with a lot of the bars and clubs in Northampton. I feel there's quite a significant training issue at this premises, and there's things that need to be put in place to get Mr. Katono's house in order. So if you would enable us, if you're not in mind to revocate the licence, may I suggest a 3-month suspension so that he can get his house in order, and we can work in that partnership approach and come in and do some training. Crime scene preservation training is something that we offer. It's only an hour, and we can come in and work with his staff to make sure that moving forward, things are put in place to make sure that nothing sinister happens, either inside or just outside his venue again. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much. Mr. Catano, would you like to sum up, please?
Thanks for the opportunity.
Mr. Cotillo, would you like me to do what you've asked me to do, and that's to sum up? Or do you want...
It's just emotional because it's just emotional because we have been battling with the pandemic and the stress and the depressing situations of having to deal with the shutdown of businesses, the debt that we've accumulated, the strain this has put on us. To be in this position when we are just reopening and we are dealing with these, it's not an easy thing to deal with. We across the industry, all the good security officers we used to have, they've seek alternative employment. Now, there's a scarcity of good security guards as an industry as a wide in the whole thing. It is depressing. If it was the normal routine, if this something happened during our normal way of doing things, like when we have a routine we're working through, I'm sure all these avenues of communication and stuff would be widely available and would have dealt with the situation much better. This happened when the shutdown, in lockdown, we changed our way of life. We were concentrating more in work. Everyone was busy with work and blah, blah. The idea of not responding to the police request of information is regrettable, and I deeply apologize for that. It was not intended, and I've apologized this to PCs and Tracy. I continue to deeply apologize for that. I'm a very good advocate to actually try and deal with crime and disorder in my community. This is evident. I'm not just saying it. I do a lot of work with the authorities around the area. So it's regrettable that I have not been able to submit to that information on time to help with that investigation. But this is not something that I would say, oh, I take pride in, or I was withholding information for some reason. No, I wasn't. I'm very sorry to the whole committee, and it's something that I wish you could consider in your decision making, because shutting down that venue, even if for one day, there's livelihoods that are going to be affected. There are jobs affected. We have debts that are accumulated already. Please, I argue to please help us out, because we are there working with you. We're not working against you. We don't see you as our enemies. No, thank you.
Yeah, do you mind if I ask Mr. Catano just one last question, please?
Well, Chair, I'm conscious we're now into summing up.
Yes, I'm afraid that Mr. Payne's correct. We are at the summing up stages.
Okay,
so,
can I make one last comment in relation to summing up then, please?
Well,
yes, okay. Yeah,
well,
I'll allow
sorry,
that.
but the police again have had their opportunity to sum up. If we have constant interruption.
Mr. Catano, Mr. Payne, it was just one last statement in relation to something that Mr. Catano said. Is that a meeting? Is that the meeting?
Yeah, could I just, it's James Chadwick, the legal advisor to the committee. I'm mindful that this is not this is not a criminal trial. Cross-examination could only be permitted by yourself, and this is not an opportunity to engage in arguments of a personal nature between representatives of responsible authorities, which is what people are here on behalf of, not in their own personal capacity. If you feel that there may be a relevant issue that may come out of a question, then that's of course for you to decide whether you want it to be asked. But if it's simply another personal, I don't think this is what you said, or I think this is what you said, then I just urge you, Chair, to keep this to relevant questions and relevant representations rather than bickering. That's the only thing I have to say, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Payne.
Yeah, I'm also very conscious, and Mr. Chadwick is absolutely right, but I'm also conscious you have a procedure. Your procedure has gone through with one or two little foibles, but we are now at the stage that the police have been given their opportunity to sum up. We now have our opportunity to sum up, and then the hearing concludes. So that's the long and the short of it. If the police are going to talk over me and interject new things partway through our summing up, that's just going to make a mockery of your procedure. I'm sorry to say that.
It's not a new thing. It's something that's already been.
Sir, I'm sorry, but there is a prime example that you've just heard of being talked over. But sir, the point is you have a procedure for a reason. We will extend this hearing if we go backwards and forwards with additional point after additional point being made. You have your procedure for a reason.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. I take on board our legal advice, and PC Tracy has summed up, so therefore we will move to Mr. Payne. Do you have any further summing up to make on Mr. Catano's behalf?
Well, Chair, yes, as you would imagine, I certainly will. And I'm sorry to take some time over this, but it's an important issue. It's an important review, and we need to make sure that this is dealt with in the right way. So if I can take you and the other members of the panel back to the licensing officer's report at the beginning. The licensing officer, in his excellent summing up and succinct summing up, referred to some things that you should have regard to. And one of those is, as you will be entirely aware, the Secretary of State's and guidance under Section 182 of the Licensing Act. And I think probably it is important, and again, drawing on what Mr. Chadwick has said, to take you to 11.24, which is talking about the purposes of reviews. And you don't need to read it now, I'm sure you will in a moment, but the point of a review is not to establish guilt or innocence. This isn't a court of law, as Mr. Chadwick rightly puts, but it's to ensure that the licensing objectives are promoted. That's what we're looking at here, and that's what you as a committee are looking at. And 11.20 before that is again helpful because it says that in evaluating the situation, one should look at the cause or causes of the review. Well, we have the cause and causes of the review very helpfully spelt out by the police, and it really stems to what the police describe as the failure of the license holder to engage in, as they've referred to on several occasions, a partnership approach in dealing with matters. Well, Mr. Catino has apologised for not being contactable, but has, to address those causes, set out to you ways in which the police could contact him or indeed the establishment. And you've heard that there is a telephone number published on their Facebook page or website. You've heard that they are open during the day for officers indeed who can visit. But we've not heard anything about visits being made to the premises to actually ask for CCTV, other than the possible conversation that took place on the night of the incident. We've heard a lot about Mr. Catino not engaging in a partnership approach, but you've heard the evidence on that. That's patently not true. It's disingenuous to say that he has not worked in partnership with the police. You've heard Mr. Catino talk about Operation Kayak, which was and is an initiative with the police. And indeed, there was due to be a meeting in relation to, I believe, that particular issue at the club. But because of the coronavirus concerns that there are at the moment, it was put off onto a Zoom meeting. You've heard from Mr. Catino about the participation in the Knife Amnesty Northampton initiative that took place earlier, I think it was in this year, and how that venue actually participated and was proactive in that. You've heard from Mr. Catino how he's looked at the CCTV system and has upgraded that to make sure that there is additional storage time on it. You have in your bundle a copy of the escape venue search policy, which has been reviewed and assessed, and that appears on page 18, to try and address these issues of knife crime. So I have to make it abundantly clear, the evidence that you have before you is that this particular venue abhors the issue of knife crime, will do what it can to its very best of its abilities to prevent being involved in those sorts of issues, and for that reason has a very clear search policy, has metal detection, has manual pat-downs under the coverage of CCTV, and will take very strong action against anybody who is found to be carrying a weapon on the premises. Let me deal with the license as it stands. So the license, if I can just turn to it, appears in Appendix 2, I believe, of your bundle. And you will see that on page 5 of that license, there are 3 conditions. Regrettably, I say quite vague and probably unenforceable conditions, but you will see that there is no condition on this license that requires CCTV to be kept at the premises. It has no condition saying that CCTV must be provided to the police. That is where we stand with this at the moment. So there has been no breach by not providing CCTV. But in recognition of the paucity, I think it's polite to say, of conditions that are currently on the license, we have suggested, and again, this is a proactive step that's been taken by the management, to put together with the police corporation a number of conditions that appear on our bundle page 11. And you'll see the very first of those is a CCTV condition. And it amplifies what the police originally wanted by making sure that there is regard given to some of the guidance documents. This didn't appear in the original version, such as the UK police requirements for digital CCTV systems. So that would, if you agree with us on this, form a condition on the license if you're minded to review the license and attach conditions. The police don't entirely agree, as you've heard, with the CCTV condition. They don't entirely agree with the SIA condition, but I think we are in a position of agreement with the other matters. So what we have here is a premises not required to provide CCTV, but is more than willing to do so, providing that the request is made. Now, the request for CCTV can be made to Mr. Coutinho directly. It can be made through the number that's been provided. It can be made through the business email address that's being provided to the police and will be provided to the licensing authority, or indeed it can be made through ourselves and we will contact the license holder as necessary. But what we have here is requests for CCTV being made by email and telephone numbers, and you will understand the reasons why those numbers weren't, or those calls weren't picked up. And they're very good reasons indeed, because of Mr. Coutinho's normal employment. So let me deal with the causes or concerns. The causes or concerns were communication. That is the reason the police say that the review is broad, but have taken the opportunity to widen it out, and we have taken the opportunity to widen it out into a whole raft of conditions which improve this license entirely. So you'll be aware that 11.20 of the Secretary of State's guidance says that any decision must be, 2 important words, appropriate and proportionate. Those are the 2 requirements, 2 tests. Well, appropriate is a fairly wide word to interpret, but proportional has indeed been, as you would imagine, interpreted by the courts on a number of occasions. Probably one of the leading cases is that of the Crown and Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Foods are ex parte Videsa, which is a 1990 case. And that was cited again in the Supreme Court in front of, indeed, the Lord Chief Justice in a case called Eastside Cheese. Which you may well say, what on earth has cheese got to do with this? Well, actually quite a lot, because what that court said is, looking at proportionality, a tribunal or a court should look at what are the appropriate measures, what measures could be imposed. And the wording was, by the Lord Chief Justice, where there are several appropriate measures, recourse must be had to the least onerous. And what we say about this particular situation is that revoking the license is absolutely the most onerous situation that could occur. And we would encourage you not to do that. I would say that the next most onerous thing is the suspension of 3 months, and you'll be aware that it's a suspension, or your power is a suspension of up to 3 months, but there needs to be a very good reason for that period. And just resetting and changing things is not enough, we would suggest, because you've already heard from the police, this is not a problem premises. You have not had a catalogue of incidents, and I'm sure in the reviews that you've dealt with before, you've seen a catalogue of incidents being reported by the police. What we have here is one incident which didn't happen anyway at the premises. It took place some distance away, and you'll be aware what the Secretary of State's guidance says about people once they've departed the premises in the vicinity being essentially issues that they are involved with is a matter for them and their personal responsibility. What we have here is one incident, and it would be entirely wrong, in my submission, to revoke a license or to suspend a license on the basis of that one incident. Why would it be wrong to suspend? Well, the reason that the suspension might be used, and perhaps this has been considered in cases such as Singh in the past, is to enable the premises to carry out some corrective actions. So if there are corrective actions that need to be undertaken, those would need to be spelled out. Well, what would they be? The simple point that the police raise is that we haven't been able to contact the license holder or the DPS. Well, all of that has been resolved. There have been, I think, 3 or 4 different methods of communication, as well as attending the premises, that is available. So there's no need to suspend on that basis. Is there a need to suspend because they haven't got a proper search policy? Well, no, because that's already in place. Is it a case of suspending because they aren't carrying out searches? Well, no, that's not the case either, because you've heard from the door supervisor that searches are being carried out. There is a metal detector there in place. So in terms of what would a suspension serve, it wouldn't serve anything. What we say is that it is appropriate and proportionate to attach the conditions and bring this license up into the standard that one would expect of a club of this type operating at this time of night. I am minded as well in guiding you on the decision that's to be made of the letters that have been provided by the Home Office, which appear on page 27, and from the Nighttime Industries Association on page 29, and or both of those letters are really quite important in terms of the government's approach to licensed premises. We've heard just, I think it was yesterday, about the government's concern that premises are struggling with the coronavirus situation. And yesterday was the announcement that the extension of off sales will be permitted for many premises until 2022. It is evident that there has been a lot of pressure on premises over the last year and a bit, or nearly 2 years now, and premises should do their very best, according to the letter, to try and rectify any breaches that might occur in licence conditions, but licensing authorities should be sympathetic to the plight that exists. You've heard that revoking the licence here would lose about 40 jobs. That would be 40 people out of work that otherwise would be engaged at the premises. And that's not a primary concern for you, I appreciate. What is a primary concern, or the concern, is the promotion of the licensing objectives. Now, what we say is that the promotion of the licensing objectives can be achieved by attaching the conditions that have been agreed, indeed the ones that we volunteer. And had we had more time, we would have submitted a minor variation to put these conditions on the license of our own initiative. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to do that for various reasons, including the meeting that we'd arranged with the police, but then was cancelled. What we say is that the licensing objectives can be met by those objectives. Those objectives can be met by those conditions rather. And going back to 11.24 of the Secretary of State's guidance, this is to ensure the promotion of the licensing objectives. Putting these conditions on would set a very clear message for the premises. You have worked well in the past. You are not a problem premises. You've had one incident, but your license needs to be updated. So, Chair, members of the committee, what I would ask is that you do agree that these conditions that we propose should be added to the license, and then that matters should be left to stand. If there is a breach of those very clear conditions now, then that would be a matter for enforcement and clearly potentially another review. But you've heard from Mr. Katuna how he wants to be part of the community, part of the solution to the problem that exists. Chair, I'm very grateful.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Can I ask, have you had sufficient opportunity to say everything that you wish to the committee?
Yeah, let me just make sure I've not missed anything. I think possibly not. Now, Chair, all I would say to you is please do read very carefully the statements, as I'm sure you have done already before reaching your decision. Please read those conditions that we have proposed within our bundle, and you'll, I'm sure, appreciate how much more detailed and enforceable they will be than the rather vague conditions that are on the licence at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Police Officer Tracy, are you happy that you've had full opportunity to say everything you wish to the committee?
Yeah, am I allowed to ask a question in relation to the conditions? That am I allowed to do that?
Not now, no.
Okay, that's fine. No, I haven't got anything else to say.
Oh, thank you. Could I ask the licensing officer, please, to sum up? You're on mute, Martin.
Generally, no further summing up as to what's in the report. I have nothing to add to that report or what's been said. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. The decision of the subcommittee will now retire to make our decision. The decision of the subcommittee will be communicated to all parties in writing within 5 working days of the hearing. Details of how to make an appeal against the decision of the subcommittee will also be included within that decision notice. Thank you for attending today, and we'll now retire to make our decision.
Chair?
Yeah.
We have the Brothers Pub Company item to consider as well. Do you wish to retire, turn off the webcast and reconvene to discuss that, or should we hear the Brothers Pub Company item and then conclude?
I would prefer that we decide this particular review now, and then go on to the next hearing when we've achieved that.